Okay, so I'm Chris and I'm here with Pat and we're talking about holy compost. You'll get a sense of holy compost as you're listening to us. And Pat, did you want to go back over that or do you want to start with something else?
Well, I could just, I'll just sum up what we were just discussing before we
Yeah.
began this recording, and that is, how do we process how we feel and what we think about after we've had some kind of confrontation with another person that ends up not feeling very good. And in this particular sheet that I mentioned to you, Chris, Leah Boyd, who's an expert, I believe, in nonviolent communication and holding resonance with others. It's anyway. So she has this sheet that we can use to go over something after it's happened, to get in touch with our feelings and needs. And we all have feelings and needs. Imagine that. Yeah, it's a step-by-step process. I can just quickly sort of sum up some of what you're doing here. This is called mourn, celebrate, and learn. So we're mourning that we missed the boat, we didn't do the thing we wish we had done, and we left things a mess within ourselves and perhaps for the other person, likely for the other person. And what the sheet gives us is some information on how to get in touch with what we really wanted to express, number one, and what need we're trying to meet by expressing that, whatever it might be.
So nonviolent communication is about, it has a lot to do with discovering our unmet needs when we are relating to other people. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And this can get, I'm just going to throw this in here, this can get very confusing for someone who might have a bit or more than a bit of codependent stuff on board. Then it can get really confusing because, as people know, codependency is about, well, I'm going to see what you need first, and I'm going to try to get that straightened out, and then I'll check in with myself. And so if that's going on, in addition to all these other things, we get into a big mess, I think. So the first thing you can do is you can sit and recall the incident, it says here, and the details of what you said or did and are not comfortable with, I think we've all had that. After we've had a conversation that was difficult, we walk away, we say, that didn't go well. So specifically, you recall the circumstance that triggered your action, why you said what you did. An example is, will you shut up so I can finish what I'm saying? Okay.
And that's what someone told you as an example.
Yes. And on my scale, that is on the nice end of things. Okay.
I hear you.
Anyhow, so recall the circumstances that triggered your action. In that case, feeling like she wasn't being heard, was not being recognized for using her voice, and allow the memory to guide you to the needs you were trying to nourish when you chose to do or say what you did or said. So in that case, this was needing to be heard. And that is a need. It's a real need.
So let's do a little detour here, just a quick detail. What do you think being heard means to us?
That what I have to say matters. It counts.
Yeah.
You may not agree with it. Someone may not agree with it. But it still matters and it still counts because it's for me, and I matter and I count, right?
Right. And so my experience, I totally agree with that. My experience of feeling heard is a deep respect, even if there's conflict, a deep respect of my humanity.
Yeah.
And a willingness to listen even if somebody doesn't agree with me, which is an even more profound sense of respect and wisdom and maturity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we've spoken about before, Chris, I think that we recognize that the culture, generally the culture that we live in, doesn't do a lot of this sort of holding space for somebody to express themselves, even if you don't agree with them, even if it's
Right.
you know.
Right. So
Yeah.
the culture is really invested in reactivity and one-upsmanship. So if you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you even more.
Absolutely.
And that the only thing that happens with that is flat out war. You know, there's no good ending to that, because both parties feel wounded, and then more wounded, and then more wounded, and then more wounded, and there's no end.
There's no end.
Yeah.
And what I think this is promoting is the word resonance, meaning that what I want to express may be different than what you want to express, but we both want to express.
Right.
We want to have resonance. We want what we say to have, if not meaning, but that it is honored and held by the other person.
And if I'm in an argument with somebody that I care about, I really want to know what it was that motivated the hurtful comment, the comment that I perceived as being hurtful. I really want to know what was behind that, because I care about myself, and I care about them, and I care about our relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to add that I'm hearing you say you care about connection.
Right.
You know, bottom line. So then the next thing it says here, once you've identified and recalled what triggered your action, to guide you to the needs you were trying to nourish when you chose to say or do what you did or said, then you allow yourself to mourn those actions that didn't actually nourish your needs. So we see how we are our own quote enemy in this thing.
So are you saying if I am in a fight with someone and I call them a stupid jerk, later on I would mourn the inappropriateness of that, and how it might have caused damage?
Well, both. That you were wanting to get your needs met, but at the same time you X through it, by not speaking in a way that would have allowed you to continue what you needed to express. So it's the we are our own worst enemy kind of thing, because we are putting up a roadblock ourselves to block our needs from being met. You see?
So yes, and I totally agree with that. And so what we were talking about before is how for instance, when I am wounded by someone emotionally, it could be, a casual comment or something more profound. I have a sense of losing all of my rational thoughts, and I just go into this cloud of my brain is very unavailable to me. I have what they call a vocabulary of feelings, because I've been working on this stuff for a while. I can find very few of my feelings when I'm caught up in that wounding.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to access them. I have to retreat by myself. Sometimes it takes a half an hour. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 decades. To figure out, what my feelings were.
Totally. And I think there's a little bit of science behind that. I'm not a scientist whatsoever, but that when we go into quote the reptilian brain or the fight or flight brain, we don't have access to those deeper things that we want to really get in touch with, where they're blocked, fight or flight, so yeah, and like you said, it can take a while to get to it, because every time we recall the incident, if we don't have something like I'm trying to present here a little bit, to break it down, we could be decades, as you said, that will recall an incident that happened with our, junior high school teacher and have the whole thing flood us all over again.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I think what the point of this particular Mourn, Celebrate, and Learn worksheet is to give us access to that deeper thing that we didn't get met. And how do we get it met now? Well, we meet it ourselves. Who knew? I mean, I'm always thinking, I need something from out there. No. It's in here.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about this, the nonviolent communication website is
Yes.
very, very helpful.
Yes. And I think this particular piece is inspired, it says at the bottom, by the work of Ike Lassiter and John Kenyon, and can be found at mediateyourlife.com. Might be worth looking into.
Right. So I'm wondering if you're game for switching gears a little bit, or do you want to say anything more about that?
No, I'm not a youngster, and I'm so thankful at this late stage of the game that I've got this worksheet that just quickly brings me to a place where I can look at this. I'm going to mourn what happened. I'm going to celebrate that I tried to get my needs met, and I'm going to learn a new way to get my needs met.
Right.
So, yeah, that's it.
And nonviolent communication is I would say one of the centerpieces of it is learning how to get our needs met, our emotional needs met. And the thing that has stuck with me since I took the class was, when I get upset, I say to myself, what unmet needs got triggered by that incident.
Yeah.
And the first time I did it took a really long time it literally took 6 weeks of thinking about it while I was walking my dog every day. And I finally came up with what was really at the basis of it. So it's not a quick fix, but it's it's a tool that I've used ever since I learned it. I use that tool on a regular basis, at least once or twice a month, if not more.
Yeah.
With just regular life. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So you were saying that you wanted to discuss Richard Rohr's.
Yeah. The blog for today. I mean, they're always great.
Right. So I had a hard time with this. I've always had a hard time with the Holy Grail, understanding it. I'm always saying like, huh?
Yeah.
So I would love to know your feelings about it.
Well, this has been a series, so we're Thursday right now. So this started on Monday, and on Monday, recapping what I'm remembering is that the Grail is within us. It's not out there, it's in here, it's inside. And so we're seeking outside of ourselves for something that's inside, and too close to see, kind of. So today's the 4th day into this. If people wanted to get the background on this, they'd have to go to Richard Rohr's blog,
Daily blog, right?
Daily blog, and get the whole background. We're on the 4th day of this. The reason this one caught me was that I thought I could really relate to many of the things that Rohr put in this piece today. The top of this sheet, I printed the sheets down. I'm not going to read the whole sheets, but I'll pick out of them. In italicized words, he says, a powerful spiritual experience challenges us, like Parsifal in his quest for the Grail, to find a way of holding the paradox of living in the everyday world while knowing there is something beyond it. And you know, I don't think about that much, but that is always ongoing. Whether we're thinking of it or not, I think we are, I'll just speak for myself. I'm sort of back and forth. And so these paradoxes are so difficult because I feel like, oh, I want to be, I get this one, but no, you've got to hold the other one at the same time. Well, okay, I get that one, but and I forgot about that. I mean, it's
So can you think of one paradox that comes to mind immediately?
Well, that, I mean, it's the one that I always think about is just the simple thing. Two things can be true at the same time. And you know, that's a new paradigm, just that. Oh, it's not right or wrong. No, could be two rights.
Yeah, so I can feel tremendous love and resentment at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good example. That's a great example.
Or I could feel a yearning to be with someone and then be with them, then they show up and within 10 minutes I'm getting agitated.
Absolutely. Because we start out high up and then we sort of slide down the slippery slope. Yeah. And again, you know, what needs are we trying to get met? I mean, so all this stuff, it's not like trying to complicate life at all. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. And it's trying to simplify things. And I think before we can simplify them, we complicate them, it seems. Yeah.
And I think for me, the my brain wants things to be really simple when I'm in this conflict. Like I get annoyed when I'm in some kind of turmoil, whether it's very little or very severe. I get annoyed with the fact that life is very full of joy and sorrow and pain and pleasure. And, you know, my ego just, you know, damn it, I just want it to be simple. You know, tell me what the rules are, you know, and let's get on with this.
Yeah.
That's what my ego wants to say.
Yeah, because you left out one that I think about, and I think you'll agree. Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Uncertainty. Why does that have to exist, please?
Right.
That is a real unknowing, not knowing, you know, and that's the truth of the whole ball game.
That's right. And then when I experience an unexpected moment of I can only say the presence of God in my life. There's just this, you know, how could anything be so beautiful and so good? You know, that's how I feel at that moment. How could anything so beautiful be before me?
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
What opens that? What opens that doorway?
Ooh, I think it's grace. I mean, it's nothing that I could describe. It happens to me both when I well, as Jim Finley says, when I put up the least resistance, put up, you know, make myself into or make the circumstances that I'm in put up the least resistance to God's presence. But you know, I'll just be in nature. Like I was trimming back my tomato plants yesterday, which was kind of arduous work. I mean, it was still lovely to be outside. And then all of a sudden the wind blew and I'm looking all around and it's just like this magic thing is happening in the sky. And it just took my breath away. And I had this moment of gratitude for being alive, gratitude for being outside on this beautiful day. And oh yeah, you do love me. Oh yeah, this is a beautiful world. Oh yeah. all I need is you, that
Mm.
was my feeling. And then 2 or 3 seconds later, I'm back ruminating about whatever I was thinking about trimming the tomato plants.
It's funny. I just have to say this because it's how I am, a little weird. When you said, "Oh, all I need is you," the Beatles song came into my mind. That song, all we need is love." And that you're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You're saying all we need is love. So I think that is the underpinning, in some ways, of what you and I are talking about, and will be talking about during these things. This is about love. And you hear that word and people go, "Oh, come on, take your Hallmark stuff and go away, whatever." Well, yeah, okay. But it's real.
Yeah.
Love
I
is
mean,
real.
it's really, love is all you need. That's another Beatles
Love
song,
is
right?
all you need. That's
Yeah.
the song I was trying
Yeah.
to think of. Yes,
Um,
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. But how it shows up and how we feel that love and give that love, then it gets complex, doesn't it?
Right. Life is very complicated. And so is my experience of, I was going to say faith. That's not really a good description. I mean, my religion or spirituality, if I want to give it a word, a label, because it's always falls short of the labels, um, is, or no, the labels fall short of the experience. But yeah, so um, I have really given myself permission, or maybe God has given me permission, or both,
Hmm.
to really go outside the lines or the parameters of the religious lines and parameters.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
what I do with my spiritual journey is comprised of experiences with the divine,
Yeah.
and really nothing else. I mean, I can't say that because I have all this. I have, my family was very spiritual and religious, and that was a good experience for me. And, my father was a minister. My mother went to seminary. We were surrounded by church people all my life, and they were good people. So I have that, it's built into me. So I can't really, but I've given myself permission to accept truth from all traditions, to accept truth and presence in any form that it comes in.
Yeah.
And the trick is for me to be aware when it comes, because there have been times in my life, many times, when presence has come to me and I haven't been aware of it, and I just kept doing whatever silly thing I was involved in, and
Mhm.
didn't let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. And I was thinking, as you were sharing just then, about how the presence, or the idea of grace, in my life has come at the darkest times. And so, not always. I do remember walking on a path when I was about 12 or 14, and just having a I'm here now experience right in that moment. And it was very strange. Like, I was very present, and it was
was it a positive experience?
very positive and loving. And there's been others, but that one sticks out in my mind because it's so long ago and it was very vivid. But more often for me, grace is about when I have used my willfulness to such a point that I've got myself painted into a corner. I did this with my alcoholism, thankful to say 30 years clean and sober at this point in my life. But I really had to be beaten up pretty darn good before that willfulness turned into willingness. And I didn't say, okay, now I want it to be willingness. I just had to reach such a saturation point of uncomfortability that I surrendered. There's the word, I surrendered, and asked for help of a God I hadn't thought of in over a decade.
And sometimes we don't even sometimes people talk about in the 12-step program, because I'm in the program too. My mother was an alcoholic when I was growing up. And I got into the program when I was 15. I got into Alateen, which was absolutely life-changing, and a precious experience that has stayed with me my whole life and has made my entire life exponentially richer than it would have been without it.
Mhm, mhm.
And I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah, I was thinking when you just were speaking again, I was thinking, we started out talking about one thing here about nonviolent communication, but everything I think that we talk about together, Chris, always sort of is woven, I mean, when I, wasn't allowing the spirit to be part of my life, then I couldn't have cared less how I spoke. I just spoke. I didn't give it much thought. I didn't care whether my needs got met, your needs got met, anybody's needs got met. And so what is coming out now is this real need to understand others and myself in a way I used to brush aside. And by understanding, I'm actually meaning to connect with others and myself in ways that I don't know, maybe I was just too busy to do. I don't know. I don't know what, it just didn't seem to make much difference what other people were saying or what I was saying. We would just say things. It didn't, it didn't have any.
Well, I mean, it's funny because it's so true.
It is funny. So I think what we're trying to explore here, and I think more and more people are generally exploring, is there's a reason we know how to talk, and there's a reason that we have needs and feelings, and that it is the human experience, and we're trying to re-embrace that. We're trying to say, what have we been missing? What have we been missing? And I think that's what you and I both hunger for, and others hunger for, is a sense that we matter and that we're connected and that we have a gift, and we're trying to honor that gift, even though we don't know exactly what the gift is yet, do we?
Yeah, so the gift is a big subject for me, and I know for you too. I mean, I spend most of my pondering time, which I spend a lot of time every day pondering. I mean, that's why I never put stuff away, and there's towels in the dining room, and the whole thing. So because I'm pondering, and I'd rather ponder than have a neat and tidy house.
Love it.
So one of the things I ponder is, this very thing of, the gift, and I always think of gifts as plural, because I think it's more common to have many gifts than to have one gift.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to identify that, I don't know, how do you go about identifying your gift or your gifts, plural?
Well, that's a good question, actually. I was thinking again, I think gifts are from the creative energy.
Yes.
Creative / creator. So I guess for me is when I'm not, what's the term? I'm not hedging. I'm not in my head. It feels like certainly I'm in my head because I've got to put one foot in front of the other, or put one thought in front of the other. But it feels like the head is in the background, and something other is happening. My term would be my heart is promoting something that it's almost like it does it on its own. It's not like I'm gonna, let me see what my heart's saying. My heart's like, okay, can you rest for a little while? Can you move over there? I'm gonna get something.
Yeah, so it's almost like the head is serving the heart.
Yes, but often the heart goes quiet, I think, when the head is like really well, fearful or, strained and
Controlling, yeah.
controlling. Yeah. Like it has to get back in the driver's seat. And we are certainly going to crash the car because we didn't see that somebody's heart was right there that we needed to pull over and tend to. And it could be our own, as a matter of fact. So yeah, I think that's what I think of as the gifts is something that the heart reveals to us as we allow it to. And it's
Well,
in
how do
that.
we allow the heart, how do we allow the heart to hear?
Well, I'm afraid my answer to that question is I got to get very beat up before. I mean, I have to really have tried all the head tricks first. It's less that way, thankfully now, but it's still a little bit of a habitual pattern to, oh, let me think about this now. Let's see. That happened, this happened, they said, I said, da da dee da da. And then, it's a big mess. So we got to have the head quiet, thus meditation.
Yeah, for me, meditation has been a huge contributor to my inner peace and my ability to, I don't know if I want to use the ability thing, because that implication is that I've done it with my own willpower. I have to use some willpower, but I think again, it's grace that really takes over, and my heart has been yearning for more, peace from spiritual sources instead of constantly trying to nourish the ego. But one of my and so meditation has been huge. The other huge thing for me has been noticing my own thoughts. And I've been doing this for, I want to say, well, actually, it started off quite a while ago. When my kids were in nursery school, I went to hear the school psychologist talk about just how they were developing and so forth. And he was really awesome. And he said that our children inherit our self-talk. And I'm like, oh, I got to clean up my act. I got to clean up my act right away. I've got to do it like today. I don't want my kids to inherit the things that have dragged me down. And I know they will. So I immediately started to recognize the punitive things I was saying to myself. It sounded a lot like, well, my mother she wasn't really terribly punitive, but she talked to herself. Like she would make a mistake and she would say to herself, no, that was stupid. That's punitive. And I would hear her say that. And then I heard myself say it in my mid-30s.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So I immediately thought I could redo the
narrative.
The narrative, right? I could rewrite the narrative.
Yeah.
So that was a hugely I won't say difficult. It took a lot of effort, but it was extremely rewarding, because I ended up with a self vocabulary which was encouraging instead of punishing.
Yeah.
And I think it probably took 2 or 3 years for me to do that, to redo my vocabulary.
Yeah.
But I knew that my kids and my own inner peace was, it was a big, if I didn't do it, it would have been bad.
Yeah.
So for me, anyway, and I continued to do that after I started meditating, because it was a spiritual, it turned into a spiritual exercise. because I wanted to know how much time do I really spend. I don't like the word prayer, because the insinuation is talking,
Mm,
that you have something to, or ask for, either
yeah,
talking or asking. And what I really wanted to do was listen for grace, listen for the presence of the divine.
absolutely.
And I'm telling you, when I first started to do that, I realized how much of my bandwidth was full of ridiculous stuff. I mean, egocentric, controlling, judgmental, and my mental health was pretty good at the time. So I'm like, I really have a lot of work to do here. If I want to get closer to God, which has always been my deepest desire.
Sure. Could I just pick out a couple of things? I think it really dovetails with what you're saying around this offering by Richard Rohr, around the Grail and it being inside, about the Grail experience and what it means. So this Parasfal, who's the searcher for the Grail, Parasfal would be all of us, any one of us. We're on this particular journey, and I think we're on it whether we want to be on it or not. So it says here, after our Grail experience, our lives are characterized by some measure of perpetual dissatisfaction.
So true.
Nothing lives up to our standards, not the church, not ourselves, not our country. There is a radical aching longing. Ordinary life will never again be good enough, yet it is not meaningless either.
Right. It's this horrible middle ground.
It's that paradox. And of course, Richard Rohr I guess he loves to talk about paradox because it's in everything. It goes on to say, there is a radical aching longing, as I said. Ordinary life will never be good enough again. After the Grail experience, the ordinary forever becomes extraordinary.
So say that again.
Yes, after the Grail experience, finding God within, or his spirit within, whatever anybody wants to call it, after that experience, the ordinary forever becomes extraordinary. God is both perfectly hidden and perfectly revealed in everything. Once a paper cup becomes a Grail, even if it looks like a paper cup to everyone else, we know it is also the golden cup. What frustrates us is that we can't tell anybody. They all think it's just paper. So it's
goosebumps.
Yeah, you spoke about earlier when you were out doing your tomato plants, and the wind came and it caught your attention, and you were swept away with being in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
You were just, wow, I forgot again, but then you remembered.
Right. And those experiences that I have, I think they usually last 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But they are so
timeless at the same time. They're timeless.
They're timeless.
They're timeless.
And they're so precious.
They're precious.
That that I would forget about the hours and hours and hours that preceded or followed them, and the 2 or 3 seconds of preciousness would just grab hold of me, and that's all I want. I just want more of it. I just want more.
Sure.
And I think that I mean, that was a blissful experience with out in the garden, but these experiences can also be in pain.
Sure.
Yeah, they don't have to be blissful. They can,
right.
God can appear to me in pain, and I think just the knowledge that there is that God is there, that I have this this deep well to pull from, even when I'm in pain. So
Absolutely.
yes, it's
Yeah.
complicated and
Yeah.
it's unknowable.
I'd like to go on because
Yeah.
Roar knows how, as good as anyone, to express what you're expressing here. His next sentence, a peak experience can be disconcerting. Sometimes we might even be ungrateful for it. We don't fit in anymore. We live the rest of our lives at a tilt, wandering like Parasol. We might feel a bit off center. We can get excited about things most people that we can't get excited about things most people get excited about. We just don't believe they're important anymore. So what this is saying, and I think you're speaking of it too, is we come out of time in a way, and once we have had the peak experience, and everyone does have them, we're changed forever, and somehow it's thrown us off the cultural more. It's kind of like, well, I always use this expression, I don't care about TJ Maxx anymore. I mean, it sounds like a silly word, a silly sentence, but it's true. It's like, I remember I used to care about TJ Maxx. Like, am I getting there this week? I hope I get a few bucks for, whatever. Okay, so then it goes on. Life's not about being perfect. It's about getting involved in this great wrestling match. We get wounded in the hip like Jacob. We limp the rest of our lives, but we're not worried about the wound. We're utterly confused, but we're not confused by our confusion. We can live with our confusion now because behind it all, we know. Does that sound like double talk? Richard Rohr says. When one gets into Grail language, it's all paradox. Everybody wants to pull us back into the first language of logic, law, and ego tower building. But we can't go there anymore. We have jumped off the ego tower. Once Parasol has seen the Grail, even though he returns to the world, he is radically different. Once we have experienced the Grail, our soul, our true self, God in us, we still fall short. We betray others and ourselves. We fail to live our own truth. We act contrary to our values and beliefs. We are hypocritical, lazy, lustful, and all the rest. But we are also trapped in the truth. As Jeremiah says, it burns within us. We know it's the truth, even though we can never live up to it. Henceforth, the only sin would be to deny that it is the truth, trying to live up to the rest of the Grail's journey. Now the quest is real because the Grail is real, because God is real.
I love that. I really identified with the confusion part.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point in my life where confusion doesn't bother me as much.
Excellent.
Matter of fact, sometimes if I'm in a good place and I think about the things that are sort of contradictory in life, not only does it not bother me, it almost adds to the beautiful mystery of how the universe is such a beautiful mystery in terms of its contradictions. So I don't need to understand. As a matter of fact, I need to understand very little in my life right now.
Yeah.
Understanding for me is way overrated. and I'm fine with not knowing, because I feel like I'm completely anchored. I'm anchored in this mysterious love of God, which I could never describe to anyone. And I don't really know how it happens, or how it shows up, or how it manifests, but I know it's there. I know it's there more than I know that this table is here.
Yeah. I can relate to some of what you're saying, with the caveat that I that surety that you feel, that can be touch and go for me. But I think I believe that's because my ego, which tends towards willfulness, as I mentioned earlier, if I get afraid, I can forget for a time that I have a source that I can turn to. I can forget it.
Yeah, I do too. I do. I forget about God all the time.
It's like, and then I'll remember and I'll go, what took me so dang long to remember?
As a matter of fact, I used to have this prayer that I would say. The prayer was, knock on my door when I forget about you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was constantly forgetting about God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can go a step further. God could be knocking and I could say, can't hear you, a little bit louder, please.
Yeah, yeah. Or I'm happy in my conflict. I'll see you later.
I'll take
I'm going to
over.
win this one.
So I guess this is common, and I've heard other people say the same things we're saying. So of course, God is hardwired and not hardwired in us. He's hardwired. He, she, it is hardwired, not hardwired, in us. And it whispers.
Well, this is
My
it.
ego yells. My spirit whispers. My spirit's like, pss, 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 pss. My ego goes, hey, look over here. I got the solution. Here's the
right.
solution.
And not only whispering for me, but there's a lot of whispering that goes along. And I've learned that the whispering voice is more reliable. I didn't know that when I was younger, but I've learned, because the whispering voice could happen, in 1989 and then again in 1992, and and I think, and then I eventually, after about a dozen whispers over the course of a couple of decades, I would say, maybe I need to listen to that.
Well, yeah, haven't you had that experience, like after the fact and something has gone like haywire? You'll say, right, I remember that when I was going to make that decision, the whisper was saying, no, not a good idea. I mean, it's happened hundreds of times in my life.
Oh, me too. Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's not even a whisper.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes there's a I don't even know how to describe it. Probably an intuitive sense.
Right.
Usually it's a repetitive thing. I mean, for a long time.
Yeah. And the ego, I think the ego had, my ego anyways, have found a way to turn the volume down on them.
Yeah. Well, or to get busy.
Yeah, get busy, distracted. Yep. And I'm right about something, I'm really right about it. I know I'm right.
Yeah.
Boy.
I mean, I think I'm right, even when the writing is right there on the wall, right in front of me, saying I'm not.
Oh man. So we're designed to have this struggle. It's,
Well, that's it, Pat. We're designed that way.
Yes.
And so much of our culture is there's almost an enjoyment of saying how bad I am because I fall short of what I want. We're designed this way.
Yeah.
We were designed this way by a benevolent creator.
Yes.
It's not a mistake. The ways we screw up are not a mistake.
Nope.
And they're not because we're bad. Humanity is designed this way.
Yes.
So I say to people who are going to beat up on themselves because they made a mistake today, when the energy that you're using to beat up on yourself is energy that you could be bringing to God in a positive way. So forget beating up on yourself and bring that energy to God.
Yeah.
You have a purpose that's not being expressed while you're beating up on yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Discipline is the root of the word discipline is disciple.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all from scripture, we all know that the disciples were the people who were learning from Jesus.
Yeah.
They were his students.
Yep.
So that was made a big impression on me, that the way to teach is not by intimidation, it's by example
Our invitation.
and invitation. Exactly. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, so do you want to end here and pick us up again soon, or?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Why don't we just,
cut it out.
I'll tell my version of Holy Compost, and then you can tell your version of Holy Compost.
Certainly,
So,
yes.
yeah, so I love to garden, and I found myself driving home from work one day thinking about compost and being fascinated by it, like how you put this stinky, smelly, icky stuff in a pile, and then a year later it's liquid, it's brown gold for your vegetables. And then I realized that my attention was like, I would dream about compost. I would like find a pile of leaves, and I would think, oh, I've got to get that pile of leaves and add it to my compost. Or like yesterday, I found this pile of pine cones, and I collected it so that I could throw it in my compost. And then it occurred to me one day that this is what God does with our life. This is a holy process.
Mhm.
So anyway, if you want to talk about that at all.
Yeah, no, I think, and I'm recalling that you had that conversation with me, and we kind of tossed that around a little bit and thought, yeah, it goes in messy, and it stays messy in there until enough time goes by that the mess begins to be something beautiful. And I think that's what I think that's what the work that we're doing together is taking the messiness and saying, in the messiness is beauty.
Mm.
So I think that's all that I would say about it, and I just love that term, holy compost. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. It's the alchemy. It's the mysterious change that happens in the natural world.
Yes.
That
Happens in the natural world of the human.
Yes, and we see this in the 12-step programs all the time. We see people coming in who are at their wits' end, they've tried everything. They're scared, they're depressed, they're hopeless. And then 2 or 3 months later, they're talking about changes that they've made, and positive things that are going on in their life, and how they have more inner stability in their heart.
Yes.
And it's just, I mean, you can't buy that anywhere. It's just a phenomenal thing to witness.
It certainly is.
Mm.
Certainly is. Yeah. All
Well,
right.
my dear friend, it's been real. It's always real with you. It's been great. And look forward to our next Holy Compost.
Absolutely. I'll bring my pitchfork.
Yeah, me too. I'll bring my wheelbarrow.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
Take
good.
care.
All right. Take care.